I am Alima, and I have reached the age of 64. In the heart of Seattle, I reside in a humble apartment that offers a view of a quaint little park. The neighborhood exudes a serene charm, tranquil in its essence, yet there are moments when I ponder if the stillness has grown overly comfortable. For almost 4 decades, my husband Salim and I have shared the journey of marriage. Our children have matured, ventured across the nation, and embarked on the journey of building their own families. They reach out frequently and occasionally drop by, yet on most days, it's just me, the soft hum of the apartment, and the steady cadence of my daily prayers. Salim embarks on journeys often for his professional endeavors. He is a highly esteemed academic within our community, frequently sought after to conduct seminars or deliver speeches at conferences. While I take great pride in his achievements, his absence has undeniably granted me extended periods of solitude. I strive to imbue my days with meaning, immersing myself in books, experimenting in the kitchen, and offering my time at the mosque. Yet, there are instances when time seems to elongate, and I am left with an unnameable longing that tugs at my heart. As the years pass, life tends to weave itself into a familiar tapestry of routines and rhythms. For years, I have convinced myself that this is the way life is supposed to unfold: calm, predictable, and safe. Yet, a part of me clings to the memories of youth, to the exhilarating rush of excitement and the endless possibilities that once lay before me. That part of myself lies buried beneath the heavy cloak of responsibility and the monotony of routine, yet occasionally it stirs, a gentle reminder of its persistent existence. On a rainy afternoon, while I perched by the window observing the droplets race down the glass, my phone vibrated with an incoming message. The message came from Salim's cousin in Chicago, a voice from the past I hadn't heard in years. The communication was succinct yet surprising. "Greetings, Alima. My son Ryan is embarking on a journey through Seattle for a few days. Could he possibly stay with you during his visit to town?" For a fleeting moment, I found myself hesitating, the prospect of a guest in my home unexpectedly unsettling. Yet, the thought of turning them away seemed impolite, and perhaps, just perhaps, the presence of company could bring a refreshing change to my routine. "Certainly," I responded, "he is more than welcome to remain." On the following evening, Ryan made his entrance. As I swung the door open, I was met by the sight of a young man poised on the threshold, a travel bag casually draped over one shoulder. He stood tall, his broad shoulders and athletic build suggesting a life steeped in vigor and resilience. His skin radiated a deep, warm brown, while his dark eyes exuded a serene confidence. "Assalamu alaikum, Auntie," he spoke, his voice resonating with a deep yet tender warmth. "Wa alaikum assalam," I responded, a smile gracing my lips as I moved aside to welcome him in. Ryan possessed a gentle demeanor and an enchanting charm that captivated everyone around him. During our dinner, he shared insights about his academic pursuits, his aspirations to launch a business in the future, and the journeys that led him to Seattle. His words flowed with a fervor and vitality that evoked the thrill I once experienced in my younger days. As the evening unfolded, I discovered that I was observing him with a scrutiny I hadn't planned. The manner in which he gestured while speaking, the inviting warmth of his smile, the undeniable strength in his hands as he raised his glass, all of it captivated me, leaving me in a state of unease. As he stepped away to take a shower after dinner, I remained in the living room, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts. I reassured myself that it was only human to appreciate a young man in the fullness of his youth, yet a lingering sense of guilt tugged at me, as if I had unwittingly stepped over an unseen boundary. As Ryan stepped back into the room, his hair still glistening with moisture from the shower, he expressed his gratitude once more for allowing him to stay. "You've been so kind, Auntie," he murmured, his voice gentle. "There's a comforting warmth in the notion of home, a feeling that lingers even in distant places." I smiled, yet the warmth of his words lingered with me long after I had settled into bed that night. As I lay awake, the rain softly tapping against the window, an undeniable sensation washed over me, a profound shift, as if his arrival had awakened emotions within me that had long been dormant. Unbeknownst to me, that sensation was merely the prologue. The days spent with Ryan under the same roof were a departure from anything I had known in a long time. His presence infused the stillness that had previously weighed so heavily, and his energy breathed a vibrancy into the apartment that I hadn't known I was longing for. He exhibited a courteous demeanor and a considerate nature, consistently volunteering to assist with the dishes or inquiring about the events of my day. Yet, beyond that, he possessed a warmth that appeared to illuminate every space he graced. I reassured myself that the mere presence of company brought me joy. It had been ages since anyone graced our home, and Ryan's charisma effortlessly masked the emptiness that often lingered in the apartment. Yet, as the days unfolded, I found myself observing elements that stirred a sense of doubt within my own reflections. His voice resonated with a deep, steady timbre, exuding a quiet authority that compelled you to pay attention. His shoulders shifted with a certain grace as he ascended the stairs, the power in his arms unmistakable even in the most mundane of actions. His laughter, warm and unrestrained, enveloped the apartment, creating an atmosphere that felt strikingly personal. As the evening unfolded, we found ourselves in the cozy embrace of the living room, tea in hand, engaged in a delightful conversation about his adventures across distant lands. He reclined on the couch, exuding an air of ease, his long legs extended before him. The fabric of his shirt clung to his chest, accentuating the lean muscle that lay beneath. "I trust I'm not imposing, Auntie," he remarked, his deep-set eyes locking onto mine. "Your generosity in allowing me to stay has been truly remarkable." "Not at all," I responded swiftly, my tone betraying a hint of eagerness. "Having someone around has been a pleasant experience," he smiled, a slow, disarming smile that sent my heart fluttering in a way I hadn't felt in years. "I'm pleased to be a comforting presence," he murmured gently. I averted my gaze, warmth flooding my cheeks. It was utterly absurd, I reminded myself. Ryan exuded youthfulness, energy, and an abundance of promise. He likely remained oblivious to how I appeared to cling to his every utterance. Yet, as the night deepened and I settled into the stillness of my bed, my mind began to wander back to him. I revisited our dialogues, recalling how his laughter had constricted my heart, how his very presence appeared to saturate every nook of the apartment. I attempted to brush it off as mere admiration, yet a subtle, persistent part of me understood the truth beneath the surface. On the following day, Ryan graciously volunteered to prepare dinner. With a grin, he remarked, "It's the least I can do after everything you've done for me." I acquiesced, intrigued by the prospect of witnessing him in the kitchen. He glided through the kitchen with a captivating grace, his hands skillfully chopping vegetables and blending spices into a simmering pot of stew that filled the air with an enticing aroma. "You're a natural," I remarked, leaning against the counter, my gaze fixed on him as he immersed himself in his craft. He cast a sidelong glance in my direction, a playful smile dancing on his lips. "My mother imparted her wisdom to me," he remarked, "yet I have no doubt that there's still much I could glean from you." In that fleeting moment, his gaze enveloped me, eyes radiating warmth and steadiness, while his smile lingered just a heartbeat longer than necessary, causing my breath to falter. I swiftly averted my gaze, preoccupying myself with the task of arranging the table, yet my hands quivered as I toiled. That evening, as we gathered around the table to share a meal, an unmistakable shift lingered in the air between us. An unspoken tension lingered in the air, a subtle pull that went unacknowledged, yet resonated within both of us. His gaze lingered on mine a moment longer than necessary, and I found myself captivated by the way his hands moved, the strength in his fingers as he passed me the bread basket. After dinner, while I stood at the sink washing the dishes, Ryan approached me, his proximity so intimate that I could sense the warmth emanating from him. "Allow me to assist," he offered, extending his hand toward the towel. With a moment's pause, I nodded, my voice eluding me. The atmosphere surrounding us was palpable, each gesture imbued with a silent, crackling energy. As his hand grazed mine in a gentle motion while drying a plate, an unexpected spark ignited in the stillness surrounding us, leaving me momentarily stunned. Throughout the evening, I maintained my distance, steering clear of his gaze, uncertain of how to decipher the fluttering sensation in my chest. As he uttered his goodnight, his voice resonated with a soothing warmth, prompting me to look up. Our gazes locked for a moment, and in that ephemeral exchange, time appeared to freeze, leaving me disquieted by the subtle closeness of the experience. That night, as I reclined in bed, my mind would not settle. Ryan found himself a guest in our abode, belonging to my husband's family, and he was notably younger than I. Still, an increasing awareness lingered in the air between us, a silent current that we both hesitated to acknowledge. I endeavored to engage in a dialogue with my own thoughts, assuring myself that these emotions were transient, misdirected, and ultimately deserving of dismissal. As the hours slipped by and the rain began to gently tap against the window, a question lingered in my mind. Why did it feel so utterly impossible to release my grip? The tempest beyond grew fiercer, droplets striking the window with a relentless cadence, echoing the turmoil and yearning that swirled within my heart. As Ryan approached, the atmosphere shifted, his warmth palpable despite the chill in the air. The subtle aroma of his cologne, fresh and unpretentious, intertwined seamlessly with his natural essence. My breath came in rapid bursts, my heart pounding fiercely, yet silence enveloped us both. "A lemur," he remarked, his voice calm and unwavering, slicing through the patter of the rain. His hand lingered just above mine before gently grazing my arm. The soft caress bore a significance I couldn't overlook, a silent inquiry he anticipated me to respond to. "If you wish for my departure, simply express it." I parted my lips, fully aware of the phrases that danced on the tip of my tongue, yet silence enveloped me. My heart raced, and my head shook slightly in disbelief, an instinctive reaction I hadn't intended to reveal. That was all it required. Ryan advanced, each step measured and unhurried, bridging the distance that lay between us. His arms wrapped around me in a strong yet gentle embrace, anchoring me as I sensed his power surround me. It wasn't a torrent, it was a calm, steady presence that offered reassurance, yet it still managed to leave me breathless. He embraced me as if I were both delicate and steadfast, his touch reverent yet brimming with unvoiced feelings. As his lips brushed against mine, the kiss began gently, tentative, exploring limits that remained uncharted for both of us. His hand lingered softly at the curve of my back, a quiet expression of comfort, as if inquiring whether this was indeed my desire. I discovered myself drawn closer to him, my body revealing the uncertainties that continued to haunt my thoughts. The tension escalated, a subtle urgency weaving itself into the space between us. The rain outside softened the edges of the world beyond the windows, wrapping us in the tranquility of the moment. His presence commanded attention, each movement purposeful and measured. It was not an act of recklessness, rather, it was a deliberate dance, each touch rooted in comprehension rather than haste. Ryan didn't inundate me, rather, he grounded me, pulling me into a moment that felt both ephemeral and deeply significant, as if nothing else mattered beyond the tempest surrounding us. "Alima," he whispered against my lips, his voice heavy with feeling. "Your beauty is beyond words, and you cannot fathom the depth of my longing for this moment." His words sparked a flame inside me, a blaze that consumed the years of drudgery and sameness. His hand glided down to my hip, gripping me with a firm yet gentle hold, his touch imbued with purpose and authority. My knees buckled, and before I could fully grasp the unfolding moment, he steered me backward toward the couch, his actions purposeful and unwavering. "Ryan," I murmured, my voice quivering as he gently reclined me against the cushions. "I've got you," he replied, his voice a blend of comfort and desire. His hands gently cradled my face, thumbs gliding over my cheeks as his gaze locked onto mine. His gaze held an intensity that was nearly unbearable, yet I found myself unable to look away. He leaned in, his body a firm presence against mine, his hands encircling my shoulders as if to anchor me in that moment. His presence was a blend of solace and intensity. His strength served as a poignant reminder of the striking difference between his youthful vigor and the tranquil existence I had come to accept. His lips journeyed from my mouth to my jawline, each kiss slow and intentional, leaving a lingering warmth in their path. His hands moved with intention, gliding down my arms, tracing my sides, until they settled decisively on my hips. He drew me nearer, his hold firm and protective, as if he feared the moment of release. "You're incredible," he murmured, his voice heavy with longing. "This is truly unbelievable." I was equally unable to do so. Yet, as his hands glided with growing assurance, and his body drew nearer to mine, all the justifications for this being wrong slipped away into the shadows. The moment enveloped me, as did the feelings he stirred within me. Longed for, vibrant, treasured in a manner I hadn't experienced in years. He adjusted his stance with a subtle grace, each motion deliberate and poised, as if every gesture was intended to express the depth of his affection. His hands cradled my face once more, tilting it upward as his lips captured mine again, the kiss intensifying until I was aware of nothing but him. "Ryan," I whispered, my fingers instinctively finding their way to his shoulders, gripping them firmly as if seeking stability. The power coursing through my fingertips was unmistakable, a reflection of his youth and vigor, amplifying the intensity of the moment. He drew back just a fraction, his breath warm against my skin as he murmured, "You're safe with me, Alima, I promise," and I found myself believing him. In that instant, as the tempest howled beyond the walls and the outside world faded into oblivion, I allowed myself to yield entirely. His hands led me, each movement intentional and gentle, as if he was resolved to ensure I felt every bit of his love. The passage of time became a mere illusion, with moments elongating into what felt like endless hours as we delved into the depths of our bond. Each caress, each kiss, each softly spoken phrase unfolded like a discovery, stripping away the layers of inhibition and caution that had shaped my existence for years. As the tempest outside started to wane, we found ourselves entwined on the couch, the soft murmur of the apartment wrapping around us like a protective embrace. Ryan's hand lingered on mine, his fingers weaving gentle patterns across my skin. His gaze held a gentle warmth, reflecting a serene satisfaction that resonated with my own feelings. "Are you all right?" he inquired, his voice scarcely rising above a whisper. I nodded, at a loss for the words to capture the tempest of feelings surging within me. "I am more than okay," I declared at last, my voice quivering yet resolute. He smiled, his hand gliding to trace my cheek. "Alima, you are truly remarkable. I trust that you are aware of that." The earnestness in his voice stirred something deep within me, and for the first time in ages, I sensed a genuine recognition, a profound understanding. Yet, as the truth of the recent events started to dawn on me, I found it impossible to overlook the burden of what was to come. For now, I permitted myself to revel in the warmth of his presence, cherishing the ephemeral moment of connection before the world inevitably intruded once more. The morning following the tempest, the apartment exuded an unusual stillness. The rain had ceased, allowing the streets to shimmer beneath a soft Seattle sun. As I lingered by the window, cradling a warm cup of tea, I observed the city awakening with vibrant energy. Ryan lay peacefully in slumber, within the confines of the guest room. The occurrences of the night before replayed incessantly in my thoughts, each instant sharp and charged with intensity. I grazed my lips with my fingertips, lost in thought, seeking reassurance that everything had indeed transpired. Yet as dawn broke, an insidious awareness began to settle in. The connection that had formed between Ryan and me was irrefutable, yet it was equally clear that it was not meant to endure. My existence alongside Salim, the tapestry of our shared past, my identity as a wife and mother, these elements remained steadfast, patiently awaiting my return. Engrossed in my own musings, I failed to notice Ryan drawing near. His voice, when he spoke, caught me off guard, resonant and soothing as ever. "Good morning, Auntie," he said, yet the intensity of his gaze seemed far too personal for such a conventional greeting. I glanced over to see him framed in the doorway, his hair a delightful mess, his expression a blend of tenderness and uncertainty. Clad in a humble t-shirt and sweatpants, he stirred a deep ache within my heart at the mere sight of him. A smile crept onto my face, betraying the warmth that blossomed within me. "Good morning," I responded, my voice softer than I had meant it to be. He traversed the space and positioned himself next to me, his presence unwavering and reassuring. In that fleeting moment, silence enveloped us both. We lingered together, side by side, gazing out at the world beyond the window. "Last night," he commenced, his voice soft and measured. It held immense significance for me. His words lingered in the atmosphere, thick with feeling. I glanced at him, and the earnestness reflected in his gaze almost unraveled me. "It held great significance for me as well," I confessed, my voice quivering. "However, Ryan, we cannot ignore the fact that this situation is quite intricate." "I understand," he said, his eyes locked onto mine, "but I have no regrets." "Do you truly?" The inquiry took me by surprise, leaving me momentarily at a loss for words. Regret hardly captured the depth of what I was experiencing. What transpired between us was exquisite, yet it was also ephemeral, a moment that could not endure beyond the boundaries of these walls. "I do not regret it," I finally declared, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. "Yet, I find myself at a loss regarding the next steps to take from this point onward." Ryan extended his hand, a fleeting touch against mine. The caress was gentle, hesitant, yet it ignited a comforting warmth within me. "I don't want to complicate things for you," he murmured gently. "I am acutely aware that my time here is drawing to a close." The gravity of his words enveloped me, wrapping around me like a dense shroud. From the outset, I understood that Ryan's time in Seattle was fleeting, destined to conclude once his business was complete. Yet, when he uttered those words, it transformed the abstract into something tangible, something that had previously eluded my grasp. "At what time do you depart?" I inquired, my voice trembling. "Tomorrow," he said, his voice laced with regret. "I must board a flight back to Chicago this evening." I inclined my head, a constriction forming in my chest. "On the morrow." The word resonated like a ticking clock, marking a countdown to the conclusion of something I was not prepared to relinquish. The remainder of the day drifted by in a blur. Ryan and I navigated our interactions with caution, our dialogues airy and nonchalant, as if we were both intent on maintaining the facade of normalcy. Yet, each fleeting look and unintentional brush of skin held a depth of feeling that we both found impossible to overlook. That evening, as we gathered around the dinner table, a palpable tension hung in the air, thick with the weight of unexpressed thoughts. I prepared one of Ryan's cherished dishes, a lentil stew he had nostalgically recalled from his childhood, yet the meal remained largely untouched on our plates. "You've shown me such kindness, Auntie," he said abruptly, shattering the stillness. "Never have I experienced such a profound sense of welcome as I do in this place." A smile graced my lips, yet it carried a hint of bittersweetness. "Your presence has been truly delightful, Ryan. This apartment hasn't felt this vibrant in ages." His gaze softened, and for a fleeting moment, I believed he might extend his hand toward mine, yet he refrained. He reclined in his chair, a contemplative look gracing his features. "I'll miss you," he murmured softly. The elegance of his expression stirred emotions within me, causing tears to well up in my eyes. "I will miss you as well," I responded, my voice quivering. Following dinner, we remained in the living room, both reluctant to utter our goodnights. The air between us crackled with tension, yet it carried a weight of sorrow that was unfamiliar, a new layer to our unspoken connection. "Ryan," I finally spoke, my voice shattering the stillness. Words escaped me. "You needn't say a word," he responded, his voice calm yet tender. "Your significance in my life is something I deeply cherish." I gazed at him, my heart heavy with longing. "You hold a significant place in my heart, more than I can express with mere words." He smiled, yet the warmth never touched his eyes. "Let us refrain from tarnishing the moment with words. Instead, let us simply exist." We lingered in silence thereafter, the stillness of the apartment enveloping us like a protective cocoon. I felt the urge to connect with him, to grasp his presence for a fleeting moment more, yet deep down, I understood that such an action would only intensify the pain of his leaving. As dawn broke, I assisted him in gathering his belongings. The gesture was straightforward, nearly ordinary, yet it bore a significance that was undeniable. Each item he carefully tucked into his suitcase seemed to whisper a farewell, a fragment of himself that would forever remain out of reach. As the moment arrived for his departure, he lingered by the door, a bag casually draped over his shoulder. "Thank you for everything, Auntie," he said, his voice heavy with feeling. "Take care of yourself, Ryan," I replied, my voice quivering with emotion. He paused briefly, as if contemplating additional words, but ultimately leaned in and pressed his lips to my cheek, the touch lingering for just a heartbeat longer than necessary. "Farewell," he murmured, and then he vanished. The apartment was enveloped in an eerie silence once he departed, the remnants of his presence resonating in every nook and cranny. I stood by the window, gazing down at the street, hoping against hope that he might return, yet deep down, I knew he wouldn't. In the days and weeks that ensued, I endeavored to reclaim my routine. As I prepared the meal, tidied the space, and offered my prayers, I found myself in a state of anticipation, eagerly awaiting Salim's return from his latest seminar. Yet, despite my efforts to divert my attention, my mind inevitably returned to Ryan, his voice, his smile, the way he had awakened a sense of vitality within me that I hadn't experienced in years. I understood that our time together had come to an end, that it would forever remain just a memory. Yet, despite my efforts to let go, I found myself longing for the bond we once shared. And so I lingered, lingering for the pain to diminish, for the echoes of the past to mellow, yet within the depths of my heart, I understood that a fragment of my soul would eternally yearn for him, forever bear the burden of our shared moments. For in that ephemeral instant, Ryan had rekindled within me a spark I believed extinguished, the capacity to feel profoundly, to love with fervor, and to embrace life wholeheartedly. Once Ryan departed, the days resumed their familiar cadence, tranquil mornings, unending afternoons, and evenings resonating with the familiar hum of Salim's television shows reverberating throughout the apartment. Yet, a profound change had taken root within me, an undeniable force I could neither overlook nor stifle. Ryan's departure created a profound ache, an unexpected void, yet it also stirred a dormant part of me I believed had faded away long ago. For decades, I devoted my life to the needs of others, my husband, my children, my community. In those ephemeral moments shared with Ryan, I experienced a sensation uniquely mine, a flicker of existence, a fervor of liberation. Initially, I sought to conceal the memories, to extinguish the flame that had been kindled deep inside me. Yet, the harder I endeavored to reclaim my former habits, the more unsettled I found myself. Each time Salim departed for yet another seminar or conference, I would gaze at the vacant apartment, the silence wrapping around me like a heavy shroud. And then it occurred once more. It began in a seemingly simple manner, a dialogue at the mosque with a younger individual who had recently joined the community. Adnan was his name, and he possessed a warm smile along with a natural ability to make others feel acknowledged. He sought my counsel regarding the city, inquiring about how to navigate life in Seattle as a newcomer. I extended my hand in assistance, embodying the same warmth that had once invited Ryan into my abode. Yet, as our dialogues extended and his gazes held a moment longer, I sensed that familiar spark I once shared with Ryan, that same magnetic pull, that unmistakable bond. Before I could rein in my impulses, I found myself lingering too near, grinning more than necessary, eagerly accepting his invitations for coffee or leisurely strolls through the park. The lines between reality and illusion began to fade swiftly. In Adnan's presence, I experienced that familiar surge of energy, that thrilling awareness of existence. The intention was never to supplant Ryan. It was a journey of self-discovery, a process of unearthing the fragments of my being that had been hidden away for far too long. Every meeting seemed to embody a subtle defiance against the existence I had accepted, a life marked by muted concessions and dwindling fervor. Alongside Adnan and those who accompanied him, I discovered myself entering a realm I had never dared to envision. A realm in which I transcended the roles of wife, mother, and homemaker. I was a lady. The guilt surged and receded, a relentless tide that marked the passage of time. I sought forgiveness, clarity, and strength through my prayers. And yet, I found myself unable to cease. Every fresh connection, every intimate moment, served as a poignant reminder of the essence of being seen, desired, and truly alive. Salim drifted through life, his mind perpetually occupied with seminars, books, and an unending stream of television shows. In the hushed moments he vacated, I discovered a reflection of myself that had remained hidden for years. I understood that this moment was not destined to endure indefinitely. Secrets possess an uncanny ability to resurface, and the dual existence I had started to navigate was a delicate construct, teetering on the brink of revelation. Yet, in the stillness that punctuated the tumult, I permitted myself to relish the liberation, the exhilaration, and the bond one had believed was lost to me forever. After a long stretch of mere survival, I found myself truly living once more. I existed. Regardless of what lay ahead, I understood that returning to the woman I once was no longer an option.